So today I'll be taking a look at a scenario where Poland lost their civil war. Now in the actual timeline in episode 56 of AdizzPro's Wicso, Poland had a civil war where the pro-Square Alliance government fought against the Dutch and Russian rebellion, but they have managed together with their allies to win that civil war. But what if that never happened? Well, in this video we'll be taking a look at this exact scenario where Poland would have lost their civil war and what could have happened after. So let's waste no time and get straight into this video. So at first the civil war will begin in a pretty similar way as it did in the historical timeline, with the pro-Russian rebellions popping up over here in the east of Poland, around where the old blue Polish state was in there. And then we'll also see a pro-Dutch rebellion popping around here on the west side of the nation, around here on the border with the Dutch. And the two sides of this war are pretty clear, being the pro-Russians and the pro-Dutch, and this will immediately get to fighting against Poland. First of all, Poland will decide to push against the Russian group, as the Russian group is a lot bigger and a lot scarier, so Poland wants to target them first. But the issue is that these guys are pretty dang strong, exactly what Poland feared. And because of these guys very clearly getting supplies from the HRE, they will be struggling quite a bit. And although Poland will be able to push them back over into here, the pro-Russians over here will push more through the north. But from here we'll also see the pro-Dutch rebellion going around in here, around these southern parts, not really bordering the Farmers Union, but definitely getting pretty close to it. And here we'll see some coordination between them and the Russian rebellion over into here, and these two will meet together, and similar to the actual timeline, they will kind of make a weird spider web thingy over into here. And from here we see also the Dutch rebellion meeting up over here with the Farmers Union, and now these two will work together to take these Polish pockets out. And now we see the two pockets over in here falling over to the Dutch, while the two others in here will fall over to the Russians. And now a key difference between the civil war in the actual timeline and this timeline is the fact that the Square Alliance doesn't give nearly enough support to Poland as they did in the actual timeline, as they are quite a new ally. So the Square Alliance doesn't really see anything worth in helping Poland. So with this we'll see the Polish capital falling over into here, and finally we'll see the Russians going over into here, taking the rest, and with this Poland has lost their civil war. So now we can take a look at the peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty, and now going over it very quickly, we see that the Polish state no longer exists and it's now split between three countries. First of all, the former yellow team, these guys are the pro-Dutch. The blue Polish, these guys are the pro-Russians, and these guys will go ahead and join the HRE. And finally over here in the south we see the green Polish, and these guys are communist and they are still part of the Square Alliance. And with this we'll see that the blue Polish country over in here will go ahead and join the HRE, and also to the HRE we'll see the dark sign Russians over in here joining. So stuff for the HRE is going well, and also the green Polish do remain in the Square Alliance, now communist. But the story is gonna be a bit different for the yellow Polish over in here, because these guys are the fascist ones aligned to the Dutch, and just weeks after this civil war ends, we will see that the yellow Polish country over in here will join up with the Dutch Empire and will become part of them, and the Dutch have achieved exactly what they wanted, and this is access to the Big East in here, as they did warned us in the actual timeline. If the Dutch achieve this, they will pretty much be free to expand as far as they want, and this is exactly what they do, as now the Dutch declare war upon the HRE. Remember that so far the HRE is not fascist yet, and they are still very democratic, So because of this, the Dutch will have some very bad issues with them. So because of this, they will be starting their invasion over their alliance, immediately going over here in the blue Polish state that they were just allies with a couple weeks ago. And from here, the Dutch will continue to push into their country, now going over here to their border. And from here, we'll see that the blue Polish state will collapse. And now the Dutch will not stop us, now they go over here more. And from here, they will make an advancement over into Mint Russia, as they want to turn them fascist. And similar to Poland, they want to turn them into an ally, which will help them expand even more towards the east. And after a couple more weeks of fighting, we'll see the Dutch reach the Russian capital, and in a similar fashion as the end of World War III, we'll see Mint Russia losing their capital to the Dutch and being forced into surrender by them. And now the HRE will kind of go down one by one, as the next on the chopping block is the blue Russian country over in here. They will also lose their capital, and after a couple more weeks of fighting and more land being taken by the Dutch, slowly but surely we will see that also the blue Russians over here will be forced into surrender. Next stop over in here we'll have the pink Russians over in here, and the Dutch will immediately go ahead and on the same day as the surrender of the blue Russians, they'll take the capital of the pink Russian country in here, and in just the matter of 1 week, they will completely steamroll around the pink Russian country. And finally, for the last target of the Dutch, it's the country over in here, the Dark Sign Russian country, which just joined the HRE and they kinda regret it. They tried to make peace with the Dutch, but it's the Dutch, so they will be unsuccessful in doing so. And they will fall very quickly as they don't have that many major cities. So their capital will fall over to the Dutch, and after just a couple more fighting, they will also be forced into surrender. And like this, the Dutch just steamrolled the entire HRE like it's nothing. And this peace treaty is a pretty scary one, as we see the Dutch fully annexing the blue Polish country, which they just helped get their independence a couple months ago. And over here to the rest of the HRE, they pretty much smack these four countries together to reform Grey Russia. And no, don't just think that the Dutch brought back Russia out of pure sympathy. No, they brought them back as an ally, as this new Russian country over in here, it's fascist and aligned to the Dutch, so they have secured an ally over in here instead of an enemy. And now the Dutch will use this opportunity to go ahead and invade these two poor countries over in here. And I mean, if the whole HRE didn't resist the Dutch, what makes you think that the little countries over in here will do? And I mean, I doubt that there's anything that they could actually do. So they will pretty easily fall over here to the Dutch. First of all, Estonia falls, and after a bit more fighting from the St. Petersburg country, they will also fall over in here, and they are gone. The peace treaty is a pretty sad one, as we see the Dutch fully annexing over both Estonia and St. Petersburg. And as if it couldn't get any worse for the Europeans, we'll now see the Dutch start to make an invasion into Finland. This invasion is strictly to change their government and to secure an ally like they did over here into Russia. And this is exactly what they'll do. Norway is gonna try to supply Finland, but the supplies just arrive way too late, as we see the Dutch going over in here and take the Finnish capital, execute their leader, and we see that they will establish a new government over here in Finland, again a fascist one aligned to them. And now after all of these wars, and after the Dutch have secured themselves not only a lot of land and also a lot of allies over here with Russia and Finland, after months and years of preparation, we'll officially see the big showdown begin, being the Dutch with their alliance consisting of themselves, the Russians and Finland versus their biggest enemy so far, being none other than the Square Alliance, being Norway and Rome, Farmers Union and South Poland. And officially the big showdown between the triangle and square alliances will begin. First of all over here into Poland, where the Dutch immediately want to take the South Polish out ASAP, and with this they move over here through their territory and proceed to totally decimate the Green Polish over in here, and they pretty much have nothing else to do. Then we see the Russians and the Dutch together starting to invade over into the Farmers Union. The Russians starting an invasion over into here, into the territory of the Farmers Union through the Transnistrian regions that the Farmers Union took from Russia. At the end of World War III, Russia kind of wants that back, and they will be taking it back. Also, the Dutch aren't gonna like be of much help either, as they will also start to push over here into the Farmers Union, taking this kind of Polish territory over in here that the Farmers Union has over into here. They will push from the north, and together with the Russians, they will pretty much tag team the Farmers Union out of existence. First of all, the Russians will go over here on the Black Sea coast, and they will proceed to totally take all of this territory out, while we'll see the Dutch, wrong color, as we'll see the Dutch continue to push over here through the Farmers Union. But the Farmers Union isn't really gonna completely fall by now, but that's mostly because someone in here is gonna try to help them, and this is gonna be Rome, yet they are still gonna be pretty unsuccessful in fighting the Dutch, as we'll see the Romans over in here quite struggle against them, and the Dutch will be able to take a lot of territory from Rome. The main focus of the Dutch will be over here around the militarized coast, where Rome doesn't really have that much of a geographical advantage, and they will kind of move around here through the Savoy regions, and from here they kind of decimate the Romans. And although the Romans do have a bit of success in pushing back the Dutch over here around the Alps, I mean it's the Alps, so doesn't really help them. And although Rome kind of gets the courage to start their own little advancement into the Dutch, this immediately turns into an issue, as the Romans are pretty much taking this for nothing, and we'll just see the Dutch come back and take this territory away from the Romans, and the Romans are screwed, as the Dutch will continue now to push here by themselves over into here. They'll take these territories away from Rome, and from here Rome is gonna pretty much get screwed. So when they lose these territories, Rome just decides to do a French move, and in classic French fashion they will surrender over to the Dutch, as they want to save their nation and not lose that much land. But that pretty much just means sacrificing this entire war for a Dutch victory and a Russian victory. So because of this, we will see the Farmers Union, which really hoped for Rome to come save them. That will not happen, as we'll see the Farmers Union getting partitioned. And it's pretty scary to think that now the Dutch have pretty much control over the entire Europe. And that's gonna get even more true, as now we'll see the Dutch and the Finns starting to push over here in Norway, with the Dutch starting to take these Denmark parts over here from Norway. And in a couple days of fighting, we see that the Dutch will be able to take the entirety of Denmark, while over here in the north we'll see the Finns also starting to push into Norway. Norway has seen what happened to their allies, so they do not want to see the same thing happen to them. So after this, and after losing a tad bit of land to Finland, we'll just see the Norwegians surrendering over to the Dutch and agreeing to peace. And with this, the Dutch have won the war against the Square Alliance, their biggest rival, and now we can take a look at this very big and very huge peace treaty that will pretty much just reshape Europe. And this is the peace treaty to the very big war between the Triangle Alliance and the Square Alliance. And now breaking it down, first of all going over here to Norway, where the list changes happen. We pretty much just see the changes being based on the claims from the war, with the Dutch taking back Denmark, and over here we see that Finland takes a bit of territory over in here from Norway, but the rest is allowed to leave, as Norway did the least amount of damage during the war. Now going over here to the Russians, they will take back Transnistria from the Farmers Union. Speaking of the Farmers Union, they kind of get screwed as they also lose this little Polish territory over in here to the Dutch, and also the Dutch have fully annexed the Green South Polish state. And this video pretty much turned from what if Poland lost their civil war into what if the Dutch took over Poland. But that doesn't matter because also the Dutch are gonna take some land here from Rome, being this little Austrian territory in here, and the Roman portion of the militarized coast. And that will do it for this video and scenario on what if Poland lost their civil war. And as you can see, this pretty much just turns into Wicso Rise of Evil. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.